Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk, and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Back to yet another episode of Skull Rock Podcast. This is a show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, what's streaming, and what's playing in theaters, and what's happening in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culturist.
And I'm Dave Bossard, artist, filmmaker, author, and somebody who's hunkering down in the middle of a blizzard. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Aljon, I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but we're getting hit with a blizzard.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's getting colder here. We had a few days of really great weather, and then bam, here comes another cold snap. So I guess Punxsutawney Phil was correct. We're going to have a few more days of winter coming our way.
I believe it. You know, that last Friday, it was almost 60 degrees here, and Saturday, it was 52 degrees.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's starting to rain, and they're telling us that we're going to get 8 to 10 inches of snow.
Well, I hope you have your snowplow, Dave.
Well, I'm just going to be in my nice, warm home reading a book. I'm not going out. I'm sorry, so... And as far as snow shoveling goes, yes, we get to text somebody to come over and do it for us.
Hey, there you go. Perfect for you. Well, I'm loving the fact that at least you'll be nestled in your warm beds there up north. But we do have an awesome show lined up for you, Dave. This is week 2 with Rob, right?
Yeah, it's week 2 with Rob Pratt. This is a really terrific interview, and I hope people really take this one to heart. Rob is somebody who is navigating a pretty tough animation environment, but he's doing his own projects, and those projects are acting as a calling card for him, and he's getting work on other projects because of it. So I think these are really great interviews with Rob, and so we're dropping part 2 today, and we have 2 more parts coming up that will be running. And I got to tell you, folks, we have this YouTube channel. We're slowly starting to do more and more video.
Yeah.
Rob is going to be up on the YouTube channel, and we've got some interviews coming up with other people, and we're going to be showing trailers and other things, more visuals on the YouTube channel. So check us out over there and let us know what you think.
Absolutely. It's looking really good. And before we get into it, speaking of the YouTube channel,
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
Surprise, Dave, I've got some comments from the YouTube.
Awesome. Fantastic. We love it.
So once again, Chicago Paul says, fantastic interview. This is about Ed Nowak. So this is our Ed Nowak series that we put up.
You know, we are getting so much great feedback from the interview with Ed Nowak. And I keep laughing because, Ed and I had a conversation and he said, I don't know if anybody's going to find what I have to say very interesting.
I know, right?
And somebody said, one of our listeners said, oh, when I saw you were going to interview a Disney lawyer, I thought, well, that's going to be boring. And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
No,
they're responding really well to it. So lo and behold, Chicago Paul 76 on YouTube, our fantastic interview. I can't help wondering with the current multi-week format of how many weeks Roger's interview would have been. In the past few weeks with Ed Nowak were amazing. I can only imagine the stories he has that he cannot share with the public. Love to hear more from him as a commentary on Disneyland Handcrafted regarding all of the OSHA violations and other modern day rules that were bent to get Disneyland built within a year. Every week, this podcast only gets better and better. And lately, I've watched the Netflix documentary Sunday Best about Ed Sullivan and his desire to showcase talent of all races, regardless of what the network sponsors thought. And much like Aljon watching 9/11 Nashville, it's the perfect show to unplug your brain and go with the flow. Do the stories make much sense in the real world? Not one bit. But sit back and enjoy the ride. Yes, that's usually how it works. Thank you for that comment.
That's awesome. And by the way, listen, Chicago Paul, thank you for your note. I'll have to talk to Ed and see if Ed wants to come on and do a special critique of Disneyland Handcrafted and just talk about all the safety issues that are portrayed in that documentary.
There's going to be a lot of red on that notepad, Dave. Matthew Arnoff Voy says, "Hi, Dave and Aljon. Great podcast. Keep up the great work." Oh, thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Rangel No said, "Hey, dudes. I know this podcast can be thankless work, but I've devoured every episode. I just want to let you know it's appreciated." Thank you, sir.
Hey, and by the way, Aljon, we got a note from Pam in Toronto saying that the first episode of our interview with Rob Pratt was great. She loved it.
Very good. Thank you. I'm glad to get that feedback here. My microphone is needing some Viagra this morning. What is going on here with this microphone? Let's see. We have here Mark Hendry says, "Man, that Greek cave story is nuts. What a legend." Smiley face. Oh my goodness. That is awesome. I love it. Okay, here we go. We also made a mention here for the Remembering Roger Allers episode. Nicholas DeSantos had mentioned, "RIP Roger Allers. Thank you for our childhoods. Everywhere you'll be missed. Rest in peace." Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. And you know something, what I guess the silver lining when some of the greats in animation pass away, the silver lining is that they've left behind an incredible body of work that's going to be enjoyed for generations to come.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, gang, that is all in the mailbag. Dave, do you have any mail that you'd like to mention?
Well, no, I mentioned, Pam from Toronto thinking the show was great. I don't have anything else to add, but it's nice getting the feedback. I did actually get a note from somebody who is a big shot
Oh boy.
a big shot in the South African animation community.
Ooh.
And so I'm going back and forth to see if we can actually do an interview and talk about what's going on in South Africa as far as animation goes, and adding more of a global bend to our podcast. Because, Aljon, what's gone on and what is continuing to go on is that the animation industry was centralized in Los Angeles, along with the film industry.
Yes.
And in the last several years, longer than that, probably the last decade or so, it's really gone global. And there's jobs all over the globe, and people really need to realize that, just coming to Los Angeles to get into animation may not be your best bet anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those people now picking up this episode or this podcast. So, hey, we welcome it. And I think there's, great talent everywhere. There's so much artistry going on. So I'm glad they're seeking out this show, and I'm glad that you're connecting with those people.
Yeah, well, Aljon, you know as well as I have that the Skull Rock podcast is a global media empire.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're going to keep on wrecking it here on the internet. So once again, if you've got some listener feedback, feel free to send us a message via the YouTube, via Facebook. And of course the email. That's always great, and we'll read your email and discuss it in a future episode.
Pam, have you know, she wrote this great review of my poetry book.
That's my pick.
I read a great review.
Your girlfriend got a great review.
Oh, that's my pick, too. Sorry.
Excuse me while I start the projector.
Skull Rock Podcast, Picks of the Week.
We're running that projector, and you know what that means. It's time for our Picks of the Week. Dave, what have you been watching?
Well, that is my favorite sound, my friend. I did watch a movie on Netflix called The Rip.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you're aware of this particular movie. but it's, I think, one of the first films from Artist Equity, which is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's production company.
Yeah.
And they both star in this film. And it's directed by Joe Carnahan,
Yes.
who also did the screenplay.
Okay.
And I thought this was a terrible movie.
Oh, no.
And, and I like Ben Affleck and I like Matt Damon, especially when they act together, all the way back to Good Will Hunting, their breakout movie. Look, Rotten Tomatoes gives this 79%. IMDb gives it 6.8 out of 10, and 58% of the people like this movie. I have to tell you, I did not really like this movie. I thought this movie was boring, especially the first 40 minutes of it. It just really was awful. They could have set it up a much quicker. I actually found myself speeding through to the action sequences.
Well, the boilerplate is a group of Miami cops discover the stash of millions in cash, leading to distrust as outsiders learn about the huge seizure, making them question who to rely on. So this is about a bunch of dirty cops, huh?
Yeah, it really is. And I just didn't, I can't in good conscience recommend it. Now, further on the small screen, I did finish watching, and I talked about this last week, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. This is an 8-episode. Now, I don't know if this is a limited series or they're going to do another one, but I will tell you, they set it up so that they could do another season. So How to Get to Heaven from Belfast is from the creator, Lisa McGee, the creator of The Dairy Girls,
Yes.
which takes place in Belfast. This show is about 3 lifelong friends reunite after the death of an old classmate turns awake into a dark mystery. They embark on a thrilling adventure across Ireland, piecing together enigmatic truths and complicated lives. I mean, just a really terrific cast. I highly, highly recommend this. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.4 on IMDb. Nearly 80% of people who watched this liked it. I love this show. I thought it was hilarious. Really well cast. Great chemistry between the actors. Highly recommend this. And I am, for crying out loud, Netflix, I hope you make another season of this. They left it hanging. There's an opportunity to do another season, and I hope they do it. And then finally, I'm mentioning a book, Aljon.
About that.
Yes. I read History Matters by David McCullough. And you may be familiar with David McCullough. He did a ton of wonderful books, history books over the years. And this is a posthumous collection of essays, speeches, and writings by the acclaimed historian. And it's edited by his daughter, Dory McCullough Lawson, and researcher Michael Hill. It was published in 2025. The book serves as a tribute, offering insights into his lifelong passion of history, his writing process, and his belief in the importance of understanding the past to navigate the present, featuring his signature, accessible, and engaging style. And I do want to just read something, Aljon, from the back of the book, which I think this hit, really hits the spot. What history teaches, it teaches mainly by example. It inspires courage and tolerance. It encourages a sense of humor. It is an aid to navigation in perilous times. We are living now in an era of monumental change, a huge transition in all aspects of life, nationwide and worldwide. And this creates great pressure and tension. But history shows that the times of change are the times when we are most likely to learn. And that is from History Matters by David McCullough. So check that out. It's a really great read. It was I felt very inspiring. And I'm going to try and add more books to my reviews as we go along, because I read a lot and I tear through books, and I want to start talking about some of them. So that's it for me. Aljon, what have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching a couple things. Streaming on Disney Plus is We Call It Imagineering, which is that new series that puts a spotlight on the different aspects of what is Imagineering. And I believe these are 16-minute long episodes, and there are a handful of them. They're really easy. There's 7 episodes, really. And it's an easy watch. It's a lot of fun to watch and see all the new things that Imagineering are coming up with. And in this focus on the Imagineers and the new crop of Imagineers that they're kind of highlighting and putting through with some of these great projects, the animatronics, the sound design, lighting. There's so many things that are involved in Imagineering that some of us don't even realize, and how the parks are engineered. So great stuff. If that interests you, which I'm sure it does, being listening to this podcast. So go out there and go out of your way to check that out. Now, I'm a big fan, Dave, and longtime listeners know that I watch a lot of kind of reality-based documentaries on Netflix, and I've got a couple here worth noting. Are you familiar with the Elizabeth Smart, I guess, kind of
Yes.
kidnapping?
She was the woman that was kidnapped and disappeared for so many years and then was found.
There you go. So Elizabeth Smart, which is Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart, which is a documentary on Netflix. This recounts her kidnapping at the age of 14 from her Utah home through personal testimony and exclusive footage. It's a harrowing story. I think, she gives a lot of great detail into it. And this was a story that captivated the nation years ago, and is now a lot of those things with this crime documentary are coming to light. So check it out on Netflix if you're into it. The other thing I will mention too is everybody's talking about the Epstein files. Crazy stuff happening over the past several years, and in fact, it's been ongoing now for at least a decade in the public zeitgeist. But now coming to head, top 10 Netflix documentary, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. It's disgusting. Check it out if you want to know more about like what really happened on Epstein Island and all this other stuff from eyewitnesses. And it's amazing to me that this guy got away with it as long as he had. There's an undercurrent that's happening with all this stuff. But survivors, as they say in the boilerplate here, survivors revealed the manipulation, abuse, and emotional scars suffered under the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and his cohorts. Their stories exposed a trafficking ring of powerful enablers leading up to his arrest in 2019. Yeah, this guy's just disgusting.
Well, I will tell you, Aljon, I've been reading a few things about this,
Mhm.
the Jeffrey Epstein and the files that are coming out,
Mhm.
and I got to tell you that this is not going away. This is building, with the arrest of former Prince Andrew this past week.
Mhm.
This is going to hit a um, turning point soon, and it's going to start taking down even more people as they release more of the files. I don't think this is over, and this could potentially take down this administration as well.
Could take down a lot of people.
Yeah,
The thing about this is that there needs to be justice for the victims. So
absolutely,
let
always.
yeah, so let's keep an eye out. But yeah, fascinating look. If you have ever wondered what the deal was, now you can find out at least what is just just at the very surface level of this entangled, crazy thing that's over there with Jeffrey Epstein. What have you been watching, gang? Let us know. Send us those notes, and maybe we'll review a recommendation from you in a future episode.
Absolutely.
Like me, they spend all their time studying pop culture that Halliday was obsessed with.
I'm really interested in what I like to call pop culture news.
People know that in 22 minutes they can get their fast, fun pop culture fix.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right. Goats versus Wuthering Heights. It's a tight race for number one. Both films are neck and neck at the domestic box office, with each projected around $13 to $15 million over the weekend. Wuthering Heights previously dominated the Valentine's Day, President's Day frame with $32.8 million. 3-day haul and a 37.5 million for 4-day total that has a strong 45.5 million overseas debut. It's globally, it's 83 million. Dave, have you seen Wuthering Heights or
No,
Goat?
I have not. I haven't seen either one of those, and I don't know if I will.
Okay, there you go. I might have to see Goat, but I've seen, our correspondent Kat Arcori, who's been on the show before, had seen Wuthering Heights, so I'll have to get her take on it
Awesome.
to find out. Chinese New Year films are dominating globally. We don't necessarily talk about these, but Chinese New Year releases Pegasus 3 is pulling in tons of stuff. And the overseas box office is something we don't typically cover, but it is interesting to see how much they are raking in. That's a lot of money. $805 million over 6 days. That's a lot. And let's see, over the weekend, of course, here's what the rankings are. Wuthering Heights, Goat, Crime 101, and Send Help. I can't wait to see Send Help. And Solo Mio rounding out the top 5. And Dave, Disney's launching a massive celebration for America's 250th anniversary. They're celebrating America with both the Walt Disney World and Disneyland. From Veterans Day all the way to July 4th, it includes patriotic exhibits, parade appearances, and extended showcases like Portraits of Courage at Epcot. Dave, I'm looking forward to, Soaring Across America, celebrating the biquincentennial. I think that's the term, Dave. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Last time I was out in Los Angeles during the holidays, actually it would be 2 times. During the holidays, I did go on Soarin' around the world.
Yeah.
And I just love that attraction.
Isn't it great? And
yeah,
what I love about Soarin' is the ability to replace it with new films. And I think the drone technology is come up in such a way that we can get new HD footage and new 360-degree footage for Epcot's attractions. And I'd love to see them put a little bit of TLC into some of those Circle Vision films over there at Epcot, because I think they're just really needing to be updated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, Epcot has been in dire need of a facelift on a couple of areas for a while.
They can only put the bandage on for so many years. These kind of food events that they happen to host throughout the year is just a band-aid to bring people back into the park. But I think people want to have new experiences, like new 360-degree films in those showcases. So make that happen, Disney. Hilary Duff, Dave, have you been catching up with the Hilary Duff on the TikToks?
No, I have not. But I understand they have scrapped the Lizzie McGuire revival.
And that's a shame. I mean, I think it would be great to try, because I think there's a big love for Hilary Duff out there. And we finally know that, yes, the Disney Plus revival is kaput. She believes Disney should have trusted her vision for the adult Lizzie and maybe even pass it on to a new generation. I think Lizzie McGuire was a really great show that happened there in the 2000s. And she is doing a comeback right now with her tours. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, man, it's gone viral, man. Lizzie McGuire and Hilary Duff is back. Dave, I want to let you know that Alex Van Halen reveals detailed work about new album of unfinished Van Halen songs. Dave, did you hear about this?
No, I did not.
Well, the 5150 Vault is a treasure trove of recordings and material that Van Halen had recorded throughout their illustrious career. And, this dates all the way back to like the mid 1970s. And they have tapes after tapes after tapes of unreleased footage, unreleased album songs, etc. And Alex Van Halen is getting together all of these things along with Steve Lukather from Toto, who was a best friend of Eddie Van Halen, and curating and putting together a Van Halen album. And they have not just one, but multiple, I guess, pieces that they can put together from multiple albums. Now, who's going to sing in that, Dave? Do you have a particular favorite singer of Van Halen?
No, I mean, look, you got Sammy Hagar. What would be really great is that they just get David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar and some guest people to come in and do some various tracks.
I would love that, but I don't think it's going to go that way because Alex says that, with this last bit, he probably wants to go forward with a new singer. He did ask Paul Rogers from Bad Company to maybe do it, but because of health reasons, he declined. And it looks like he reached out to even Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin to maybe sing on a few things. I guess he didn't want to necessarily get sidetracked by maybe some of the stuff that had happened in the past. But man, wouldn't it be great if he got together with those guys one more time?
Well, listen, if they just put their differences aside, I mean, Eddie's gone, and this is a tribute to what the band did and stood for all those years.
I agree. Speaking about another interesting project, Dave, beam me up, Scotty, for a new record. Star Trek actor, 94 years young, Dave, to release a heavy metal album. Did you hear about this?
I saw a picture of William Shatner in a leather jacket that had chrome spikes on it, and he's appears to be playing a flying V guitar.
Yeah, it's one of ours, right? I know AI is crazy. It's like it's William Shatner dressed up like he should be in Motorhead. He's boldly going where headbangers have never gone before with a brand new heavy metal album. And he says, quote, on a tweet from X, "I've explored space. I've explored time. Now I explore distortion. Yes, you read that correctly. I'm releasing a heavy metal album."
It's fantastic.
I know. Yes.
He's got such a great sense of humor. I mean, did you see that commercial, Will Shat?
I love it. Oh, I love
on
it.
the Super Bowl.
Between him and his serial exploits and, everything else that's going on, he's got a great
It's fabulous.
humor. He's
more power to him. That's what's keeping him going.
Exactly right. So he says, prepare yourselves. We're about to boldly headbang where no one has headbanged before. This is released from Cleopatra Records. It's built around massive guitars, cinematic arrangements, and Shatner's signature vocal intensity. Where the record plays like a high voltage film, sharp turns, dark humor, raw emotion, and moments of unexpected beauty. 34 musicians unite with Shat to produce this, including working with Megadeth's founding guitarist Chris Poland. So a lot of great heavy metal veterans on this record, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. I would think that it's going to be coming out soon. For whatever reason, it didn't mention exactly when this album is going to be coming out, but I would assume that's coming out soon. So be on the lookout for that. And you better believe when it comes out, I'm going to download it and we're going to talk about it here on Skull Rock.
Okay. We'll do it.
Better believe that.
Skull Rock Podcast.
You're like that little arrow on your hat. Straight and shining. And that's the way I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you. I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you, Sharon.
They hang you, I'll always remember you.
In memoriam.
Dave, it's been a week and so far a tragic year for celebrity passings this week. And let's forward to Eric Dane, 53 years old. He was known for his work on Grey's Anatomy and Euphoria. He passed away at the age of 53 of ALS. There's tons of tributes and family that have chimed in on his passing. I saw his last address to his family that was released on Netflix. That was one of his final requests as he recorded it before he passed. It's very sad, but very poignant about living today. Dave, what are your thoughts on Eric Dane?
Yeah, no, this is very sad. I mean, he went public with his ALS diagnosis a little over a year ago, and he embraced it, and he played a firefighter with ALS on. He leaves behind a big body of work, but yeah, go ahead. What was that?
Well, no, I was just going to say that was the Brilliant Minds.
Yeah. He plays a firefighter with ALS in Brilliant Minds.
Yes, and I remember watching Eric Dane on Charmed. Maybe 20 years ago, And I was a huge fan then, and then following his career to Grey's Anatomy, it is very sad. But ALS is a debilitating disease, and our hearts go out to his family and friends. A long, long career for Jesse Jackson comes to an end. 84 years old, of course, a civil rights leader, two-time presidential candidate, American clergyman Jesse Jackson, the Rainbow Coalition. Dave, we both lived through the era of Jesse Jackson in the political world and in the media world. What were your remembrances of Jesse Jackson?
He was another one of the great orators of America, I think. He really could speak and project. When you mention Jesse Jackson, the picture that comes to mind for me is him standing on the balcony in Memphis, Tennessee, at the motel in Memphis, Tennessee, with Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
But there's a famous picture of them, and it's I think a day or two before Martin Luther King was assassinated. That's always the picture that comes to mind when I hear Jesse Jackson's name.
Same thing.
For whatever reason, but yeah, R.I.P. He had been ill for a while.
He sure has, yeah. Billy Steinberg, 75 years old, hit songwriter behind Like a Virgin, True Colors, and more. Man, that was a prolific catalog he had in the 80s. Passes away at 75.
Yeah, and Aljon, a lot of people sit there and go, "Wait, he wrote Like a Virgin, isn't that Madonna?"
Yes.
A lot of these pop songs that are by Madonna and people like that are actually written by other songwriters.
You'd be surprised. That's right. And you'd be surprised, gang, how many songs are not written by the artist who sings them. It's very, very, very telling. But yes, Billy has been around for a long time and prolific in his work. Speaking of prolific work, Jane Bear, Dave, someone I believe you may have worked with, who worked on Sleeping Beauty and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, passes at the age of 91.
Yes, yeah. Jane Bear is a titan in animation. Not only did she work at Disney, but when she worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, her and her then husband, Dale Bear, animator Dale Bear, they worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit with their production company that they had in town. They did a lot of commercials and stuff like that. Jane was a lovely person. I knew her over the years. I did freelance work for her and Dale when they had Bear Animation. 91. I mean, she had a great life, really great life.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And speaking of a great life, another one passes. Robert Duvall, iconic entertainer, The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Taxi Driver. What hasn't he been in that we haven't seen that's part of the top 100 films in the vault for, the American classics? Robert Duvall, wow, 95 years of age, Dave. Robert Duvall.
I mean, what a body of work. And by the way, a lot of people, I don't think really knew this. Robert Duvall's first film appearance is in To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck.
That's right.
1962.
And that's one.
And he plays Boo Radley. He doesn't have any dialogue in the film.
Yes.
But he is just a presence when he shows up.
100%. I mean, I remember seeing that film as a kid because it was, we had to read summer reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and then to see the film and discuss it in class at an early age. It was one of my favorites and still is to this day.
I mean, look, Harper Lee. It's a terrific book.
Yes.
And it's really an iconic and classic movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been involved in so many classic films. I mean, True Grit, MASH, Bullet. I mean, there's so many, Dave.
Aljon, can I tell you what an impression Apocalypse Now made on me?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because I saw that at the Ziegfeld Theater in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I want to say it was a 1,500 seat movie house. I may be overshooting, but it was a big auditorium with a massive screen. And I will never forget when the theater went dark and the curtains opened and you were looking out over a jungle, over the top of a jungle, and on the on the left side of the theater, you heard very low in the surround sound, whoo, 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 and it's getting louder and louder and louder, and then all of a sudden, wham, these helicopters go screaming across the screen. It was an incredible theater experience to see that opening weekend in the Ziegfeld Theater in Manhattan. I was just blown away by that movie. It was just from beginning to end. It is a incredible cinematic experience on a big screen.
You and everyone else. That's amazing. What Dave, that's why you're the storyteller. I'm getting enthralled just reliving it in my brain because that opening sequence is one of the best in Apocalypse Now, one of the best of all times. And of course, Robert Duvall, one of the best of all times.
Yeah, and by the way, that iconic shot of Robert Duvall standing on the beach, shirtless, and he kneels down and says, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," and they had just dropped these incendiary bombs behind him. That was a one-take shot. That was it. They had one take on that.
Unbelievable. And it's iconic. I mean, it is iconic.
And the quote from Francis Ford Coppola, the director, that I love, when asked about Apocalypse Now, he said, "We had too much money, we had too much equipment, and we went insane."
But they may have, but man, did it leave a mark.
It was an incredible film.
Incredible film. I'm just reliving it, just enjoying the visuals you're displaying out for us. Robert Duvall, age of 95, man, iconic. Absolutely. Doesn't even describe the actual body of work that he leaves behind. Well, having said that, we're wrapping things up. Let's move into the next part. Our piece du jour. It is Rob Pratt back in the hot seat once again for part 2 of his awesome interview. Sit down, relax, take a load off, and listen to Rob Pratt right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat afterwards. Let's chat. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back for week 2 with Rob Pratt. Rob, animator, story artist, director. You've really worn a lot of hats, but last week we kind of ended with you being on this 1-year training track to become an animator, where every 3 months they reviewed your work and they could drop you if you weren't really living up to it. But you made it through the entire year, and at that point, did they make you an animator?
Yeah, it was at the end, and I kind of mentioned, taking dialogue from favorite movies, and I took a Luke Skywalker piece, that Tashi Station line. That's so great. When you watch Mark Hamill, he's barely moving when he says it, but I had young Herc out. In animation, you have to, think like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and everything's very visual and theatrical. And that I did that test right at the end, and that was the one I think that pushed me over the top. That got reviewed and got me promoted to animator for the next film.
Yeah, and what you were describing is really with animation, your characters you're caricaturing their action. It's a little bigger than life than if it were a live actor, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill kind of said the line, but there wasn't a lot of arms flailing or anything like that, right? And so you put that into it.
Yeah. And it was a crowd pleaser, I think, because our generation, right? Star Wars revolves around, we revolve around it.
Yeah, and I'm curious, when you showed that test, did you get a lot of laughter?
I did, yeah, it's great. And I think, but I was going to go to Tashi Station and get some power converters. And then Uncle Owen goes, "You can waste time with your friends when you get home." And he does a sigh and turns off. Randy thought I can't finish the whole thing. My mentor Randy Haycock says, "Okay, you got the Tashi station line. You're done. Turn in the test." But no, this is fun. I wanted to keep going, so I threw in the Lars line too, and I had the reaction of Luke, like, come on, and he turned around and waved to the droids who I swapped out for Pain and Panic. And I think that I'm glad that I stuck with wanting to do it, because I think that's what got the laughs and maybe helped get me over that line.
Well, and I think that's really a valid point to make here, is don't just settle for what just the basics, take it up a notch, surprise people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you get promoted to animator. What's your first picture that you're animating on?
Yeah, so the next movie is Tarzan. Wow, what an amazing movie. And when people ask me my favorite movie I worked on, it's hard to pick. You love them all. But one thing that comes to mind with Tarzan, you look at the history of the Disney studio and how it started with rubber hose animation, and then Walt wanted to bump it up a notch with Bambi, and they brought in live deer for the animators to study. And then, decades pass. People kind of thought, as the 9 old men were dying off and retiring, well, maybe this is it. Maybe it's like the Beatles. It was a special thing, and now it's over. But we got this renaissance happen, and it was great. And these Renaissance animators wanted to embrace this tradition of Disney. And so on Tarzan, well, they got us all zoo passes, because we have a zoo that's local and close, and they encouraged us, go study apes and draw them. And then they brought in a live chimpanzee for us to study, and you felt like you were one of those classic Disney animators on Bambi, because you were studying an animal, and it was really fantastic and intimidating as hell. I was just, learning how to kind of move things around, but that kind of realism was scary, and there was struggle on that movie for me. So I got to stay with my mentor. Russ Edmonds got cast Kala, Tarzan's mother figure ape, and so I was on Russ's team. Well, that movie went through some story hiccups, and when you watch the movie, it is kind of fun. I like that it does change kind of energies throughout that movie. You get heart and everything, and then at the end, it kind of becomes a classic Tarzan serial with the action. But you get these shifting things, and I think in story, I wasn't part of story, but it sounded like they were trying to sort a lot of this stuff and get it figured out. So they halted production for 6 months, and it gave us time. That's when they got us, use your zoo pass, go to the zoo and draw every day. But it impacted their budget. So when they were resuming, they said, we've got to kind of like pare down a little bit. And I was the young new animator, and I was told, we got to let you go, Rob. And I was like devastated,
Really?
Wow. So I was scared as hell. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then again, luck. My office, now I'm sharing, like you mentioned, sharing an office. Now as an animator, I had an office, and I had an office mate.
Yeah.
The very next door to me was Bruce Smith, who I'd not met yet, but I'd see him in the hallways and say hi. You can't miss Bruce. He's this tall guy. Played basketball against Michael Jordan during the making of Space Jam. And so I would always say hi to Bruce. And then I saw Bruce was working on Kerchak, the father figure ape to Tarzan. And I just kind of heartfelt mentioned to Bruce, like, hey, Bruce, I'm kind of in this tough situation. I would love to work for you if you need anybody. And Bruce didn't know me, but Bruce took a chance on me. He was such a nice guy. And so I got to stay on Tarzan and shift over to Bruce. So I have animated several shots of Kala. I did several shots when baby Tarzan was in danger of getting eaten by Sabor, and Kala's trying to save Tarzan. So I have a few of those to claim to, but then the rest of the movie I got put on Kerchak, and that was a great experience.
So I just want to clarify for our listeners, when you're part of Russ's unit or Bruce's unit, the way they set those up is that Bruce and Russ are supervising animators in charge of a particular character, and under the supervising animator there might be 4 or 5 animators that they're supervising, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
casting scenes to, oh, Rob, you do great dialogue here. I'm giving you this shot, right?
Yeah, that's
Those
right.
kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And what a great setup, because these, Disney designs are usually very difficult to draw. They're not simplified like, let's say, the Flintstones for television, where it can be handed out. Disney characters are very dimensional and detailed and very expressive. And so one thing that was great during that setup is you get assigned a character. You just have to draw that character for that year or however long you're on the movie. And even then, we would get to the end of the movie, and by at the end, all right, I know how to draw Hercules now. Let's go. Oh no, the movie's done. Like it would take that long to kind of get comfortable drawing the character.
Yeah, and that's and again, why having great cleanup artists, because they're the ones that really bring the characters back onto model, right?
Yeah, that is funny.
So you have a consistent look throughout the movie, because every animator has some variance, right?
That's right. And we had a great lead cleanup on Tarzan, Tracy Lee, and I love Tracy. He's a great guy. The one time I got they were putting out these art of books, with all of our movies, art of Tarzan, art of Pocahontas. I finally get a drawing of mine in a book. It's Tarzan, and I just couldn't believe I have a drawing in a Disney book. But it was to illustrate what you just said, Dave. It was my drawing and a couple other drawings of Kerchak, and how they all looked off model, and then how Tracy Lee and his team came in and put it on model for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you worked on Tarzan. You didn't get laid off. You actually got sort of saved.
Yes.
Thanks to Bruce Smith, who's a great guy. And then what? I mean, what happened at that point?
So with Bruce, one thing that was great, I think Kala probably has more footage in the movie, so that Kala team was slightly larger. With Bruce, I think it was just the three of us, so you felt kind of exclusive. It was Bruce Smith, Mark Smith, so two Smiths, and me. I think if Tarzan interacted with Kerchak, some of those shots were animated in Paris by the Tarzan animators, but it was nice to kind of be on a team of just three. You felt really responsible for that character. I did not get a dialogue scene in that one. I think I had done my dialogue test and conquered it, but now with an ape's mouth, and I think I probably hadn't instilled that kind of trust with Bruce yet. So but I think if I got some drama, I did get some of the shots where Kerchak gets shot and then he's laying dead as Tarzan's professing his love for him. So I got some drama in there, and it was great. And just learning about apes and how we humans have these tendons that don't let us bend our fingers back a whole lot, but apes, because even with the great weight of their arms, all that weight that goes on their knuckles, it will hyperextend for them. And so you just learn all these fun things about, wow, I learned how to draw human hands, but then now there's new rules for ape hands, and it just was fascinating. And what a great movie to work on. And then I love the end result of the movie too.
Oh, it's a beautiful film. Absolutely beautiful. But what you're just talking about is kind of true of every single project that we work on, right?
Yeah.
You learn something new. You do the deep dive into the research.
Yes.
Whether it's animals or humans, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because the human characters, they're caricatured, so they've got a different walk, gait. Those kinds of things. And that when I look back at all the pictures I worked on at the studio, that's the one thing that always comes to mind, is that when you think of a particular film, oh yeah, I learned X on that film, or I learned how to do such and such.
Yes. Yeah.
And to me, that's sort of the great part of working on these movies, is that it's not just the drawing, it's the education you get.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And boy, just learning just keeps your mind so active. I love it. I hope as an artist, your whole lifetime should be a journey of learning.
Yeah. Well, we should all be learning our entire lifetime. I always say, if you think you know it all, you're dead in the water.
That's right. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So what happened with Tarzan? You finished Tarzan, then what was next for you? You're full-fledged animator now.
Yeah, well, great. So continuing to show my chutzpah, now the movie ends and you kind of have to figure out where you can fit and try to have a voice in where you fit. And so I'm finding out, well, the next movie is Atlantis. And I thought, boy, that's a really terrific subject for us to tackle. That sounds great. And oh, the lead is going to be voiced by Michael J. Fox. And I'm the hugest Back to the Future fan. So now, I have access to the animators, and I just took some dialogue from Back to the Future. I took wait a minute, Doc, are you telling me you made a time machine out of a DeLorean? And I animated Milo Thatch to it, an early model of him. And I marched over to John Pomeroy, the lead animator on that character. And I said, here's what I've done. I would love it if I could work with you on this. And just like Bruce, John was a sweetheart and said, you know what? He was kind of blunt with me too. He's like, it's not always about the skill level. I guess he was telling me maybe my skill level wasn't the highest. He says, it's not always about the skill level. I do appreciate the drive, the hunger, the excitement, and the passion. Yes, Rob, I want you on the team.
That's
and
awesome.
So it was awesome. And so now we get this lecture in the our auditorium, our movie theater. Yeah. And the creators of the picture for the art direction, they say, we have gotten Mike Mignola, who's created Hellboy, and he's going to consult, and we really want to get the Mignola thing. And we were studying how the shadows are, and they're not usually round. They were very edgy, pointy. And so I embraced it. But how do you get 300 artists all on board on that task? And I could see that it was at varying degrees of success, everyone trying to get this. And anyone who watches the movie closely, I think even in the finished product, you can kind of see it's maybe not as even as it could be. Yeah. But I embraced it. So the very first shot I got of Milo, I got a dialogue shot. So I had my Michael J. Fox track, and I was just beside myself, and I embraced it. So it wasn't really my job to add the tones. That would be more probably in your neighborhood, right, Dave?
In the effects world.
The effects, yeah. But I thought I'm going to at least indicate my guess on how his jacket folds should probably make this Mignola inspired things. And I think kind of John's response to me being very passionate about it, right away, Kirk Wise, the director that was looking at animation, recognized that I was passionately trying to do it. And so it led to a very wonderful experience on that whole movie. I got a lot of dialogue shots. I got really great shots throughout the whole movie. Totally loved it. I mentioned that I love Indiana Jones, and that was probably our closest thing that we were going to do to Indiana Jones in that movie, period piece and adventure. And so just love the movie. It didn't perform as well as we thought, or as we hoped. But that's Toy Story had come out, and now CG was kind of the thing. And I think the audience had gotten so much of our entertainment. There could be, no matter how many times you eat your favorite dish, you can't eat it all the time because you're going to get full. And so that movie kind of wasn't on the excitement level of Toy Story, and you could kind of sense that things were maybe winding down a little bit, or there was a big change.
I think also Atlantis: The Lost Empire, that purposely they didn't want to do a musical, so there's no songs in there really.
That's right.
From the standpoint of it being a musical, in terms of Pocahontas or Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin, and so that's probably a little bit contributing to the softness of it. But to that point though, the film really has built a following over the years, so there's a big fan base to the film.
Yeah. When you go to the big Comic-Con in San Diego, you will see Princess Kida cosplayers there. You will see Milo cosplayers there. Yeah. It's really aged well. And the studio was not very high on that movie. And you could sense it within the studio. And then it didn't do that great. So they were a little bit down on it. And then so maybe it kind of made me not as excited. And then years went by. And then before Disney Plus, when Netflix was the place, Netflix was showing the Disney movies and they had Atlantis on. And I remember putting it on after having not watched it for several years and, knowing that the studio was down on it. And then I watched it. No, this thing is amazing. It's like really great. The animation's terrific and the art direction's fantastic too.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think there was a sense, in some of it's in hindsight, but I think that there was a shift starting to take place in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was a sea change happening in animation with the success of Toy Story and A Bug's Life, and then I think DreamWorks did Ants, and they had a couple of Shrek. I think the original Shrek was starting to come out at that point.
Yeah.
So there I think when we get into Atlantis, the Lost Empire, and your next picture, Home on the Range, there's a change starting to take place in the industry.
We could all feel it, huh?
Yeah. I mean, at least I did, I mean, I kind of felt like when I finished Fantasia 2000, I was like, okay, I want to do something different now. And I started doing all the special project stuff because I just knew that it was going to be rough sledding. But that's part of us as being artists in the industry, of kind of looking down the road to see what's happening, what are the changes that are going on.
That's right. Yeah.
So you finished Atlantis, the Lost Empire. It didn't perform as well as they had hoped it was going to. And what happened?
Yeah, so then they would call it baseball trades. When you ended a picture, you got your reel together, and it was almost like applying for a job again. But it's all of us internal candidates, and they were having piggyback productions, so there'd be 2 productions going at different stages, and everybody's phone was ringing, and it was a nervous time because if you heard from a producer, you were in good shape. They were calling you to welcome you on to a new production. If you heard from HR, that was not good news. You didn't get picked up.
It was dead man walking down the hall.
It was,
right?
yeah. So Home on the Range was called Sweating Bullets at that time.
Yeah.
And so we were waiting, I'm sitting by the phone. We're all getting our phone calls. We're all nervous. Then I get the phone call welcoming onto Sweating Bullets. I can't remember what the other option was. Gosh, was it Emperor's New Groove at the time, or was it? Oh no, it would have been or was it Treasure Planet? I'm not sure now. But I got the call from Sweating Bullets, and then you're like, oh, thank God. I still have a job. But you did kind of have a sense that the winds were shifting, and you didn't know how long this was going to be kind of the same career, so very happy to go.
And the layoffs were starting to happen.
They were.
I mean, they were starting to pare down, albeit in a sort of a smaller way. But it wasn't until the end of Home on the Range, and we'll talk about that at some point. But there was definitely a nervousness that was going through staff, right?
For sure, yeah. But I did definitely love the design sense of Home on the Range. Really fun characters to draw. And then I got to work with Duncan Majori Banks, who I think is a Disney legend. I mean, he animated Sebastian the Crab. I mean, Duncan's, and what a spectacular guy he is. And so got more mentoring from him. And even, it's just great watching these terrific artists. And even when they don't verbalize, when you watch and you're observant, what did Yogi Berra say, right? You can observe a lot by watching. you watch. And I would see that we all have this posing where we kind of guide the eye. So if a character is listening to another character, maybe that shoulder's up as the hip is down, because it creates this kind of cone that kind of frames the other character. And I would see animators, when even if the character walked around, the character listening would now shift because they were always framing that character. Watching Duncan, and he never verbalized it to me, but I would see he would do that with the character's face. He would pinch one side of the face and open the other side to kind of guide your eye. And I love that Duncan did that. So that's definitely in my work now. So I loved working, and we were on Mrs. Calloway. Another Judi Dench was the voice, so another great voice track to work with. A Western. I love movies. I grew up on my Spielberg Lucas adventure movies, and maybe Westerns weren't a big thing I watched, but you always thought Westerns were kind of cool. And so it was kind of neat, like, oh, we're going to do a cowboy movie. And the first version of Sweating Bullets was going to have more human characters, cowboys and stuff. And then it kind of morphed as it turned into Home on the Range. But getting back to kind of like drawing animals again, and with the chimp, now to draw a cow, you got to learn how a hoofed animal does a walk. The first thing you got to do a walk cycle of that hoofed animal. And then Russ Edmonds, another, my mentor I've been talking about, is a big horse guy. So he would come in and give us lectures on how horses walked. And he's like, you know what? If you're intimidated by it, animate the front of the animal with the two front hoofs and get their performance and their acting. And then here's how you fill in the blanks for the back. So we had all this fun, like learning, and it was kind of like we were saying, Dave, like always like a fun challenge to learn like the new style of movement for that thing. And just the designs were so fun and angular.
Oh yeah. And again, there was a bit of upheaval on that project. And I'm just curious as to your experience during that. And what I mean by that for our listeners is that oftentimes when films get developed, there's story issues, there's director change outs, there's upheaval. And it's part of the process, really, of making these movies. But you came on to the film, which was at that time when you were brought on, was Sweating Bullets. And it had, directors who then left.
That's right. It was early on. It's almost easy to forget, but you bring back memories. I remember one of the things that kind of stayed through the production, because it's such a strong song, is that Little Patch of Heaven. So I'd animated Little Patch of Heaven, and they gave me a shot with little hummingbirds. And another thing that was fun, growing up in my 20s, I wanted to be the next drummer for Kiss. So I played drums and I loved music. And so they gave me this shot with these hummingbirds. And I remember having them kind of like swaying to the beat, but then there was like a little violin thing that I had them all kind of move to that sound. And Mike Gabriel really praised me for it. He was the director that was really looking at animation. And I felt like I won over the great Mike Gabriel with that. And maybe he'll have confidence with me, and I'll have a great experience on this movie. And then you're right, it went through the upheaval, and the directors switched. And a lot of us love Mike, but it's just like the vision with what the studio wants to do, strategies, there's partnerships with toys, there's all kinds of things that amount to this. And but luckily, the second team came in, they kind of had to revamp it. It became even more cow-centric. And luckily I hit it off.
And they changed the name at that point,
and they changed
from
the name.
Sweating Bullets to Home on the Range.
Yeah. And luckily I hit it off with those guys too. So it still ended up being a nice experience, but definitely we were all drawing with this kind of looming shadow over us that Toy Story was a hit. And boy, a really eye-opening thing, because you brought up the other studios. Historically, animation's always been a really tough proposition. The only studio that could do it repeatedly was the Disney studio. Other studios might have a hit, but they couldn't have a string of hits. And so now it was kind of its own thing and really hard to do. And it always took somebody very passionate, like a Walt Disney or Jeffrey Katzenberg, to really like make sure it's happening, because it's so hard to do. And other studios would fall by the wayside in the decades past. Well, then Toy Story comes out, and they have this huge hit for Pixar, enormous hit. And that was like, whoa, okay, well, maybe it's a new thing. And they had a hit. But then DreamWorks came out with Shrek, and that was a huge hit. And they're like, whoa, okay, another studio replicated that hit. And then Ice Age came out for Fox, and that was an enormous hit. And you're like, whoa, okay, we are in we're an uncharted area where these hits can be made at other studios. And that was another reason why we were all a little worried, like, oh boy, they're really going to embrace the CG thing, because the hits just seem to be coming, and the hand-drawn stuff is such a specialized craft and hard to replicate that kind of success.
Did you were you sort of hearing the conversations about CG? And what was going through your head? Were you looking to embrace the technology? I know, from my perspective, I heard people say, "Oh, I don't want to do computer. I just want to draw."
Yeah.
What were you hearing?
It was definitely heartbreaking. And yeah, I heard all of those to people that like, screw this, or there was a lot of denial, like, oh, they'll try it, but they'll come back to us. And I think just out of survival, I thought, well, I'm going to try to do it. I just want to keep my job, because now I was, 10 years older. Now I did have a wife. I had 2 little ones. And so I just better do it what I need to do. And so I'll at least try to make it fun, like I always did with my animation tests. So at home, I downloaded, or I bought a copy of Poser, which was like an early CG thing that was you could do at home. And then I found a model of Superman, and I love Superman. So like, well, I'll animate some Superman stuff, and even him interacting with another thing, like picking up a car and throwing it. And I got some some dialogue. This looks like a job for Superman, and I'll animate to that, and I'll try to have fun with it at least. And because we were kind of warned, those baseball trades that I mentioned earlier, all right, you better have some CG on those, because that's the way things are going. And I'm like, okay, well, so I had a lot of, I stayed up late at night. Now my daughter was like an infant, crying in the middle of the night, and I got to take care of her. And, but I found time to just work on these tests and do them. And I put the John Williams music on it. I just really tried to have fun, and I submitted it. Now, here's a thing that I can't be bitter over this, but it definitely taught me, some of these life lessons hit you really hard because you need to learn them. And that's why they're painful, because they got to stick with you. I submitted, and there were animators that I said, are you working on your CGI? No, I don't want to do it. And I go, is that wise? And they didn't do it. Well, the next movie ended up being Chicken Little, the first CG movie. And the director was Mark Dindal, who's a terrific guy. I know him now, but I didn't know him back then. I didn't work on Emperor's New Groove. And so when these baseball trades happened, I did not get picked. And I did see colleagues that didn't do the CG, but they got picked. And I understood, like, oh, okay, it's personal relationships. He's going with people that he's worked with. Even if they didn't go that extra mile, he still has the trust in them. And he just doesn't know me. I know if he knew me, he'd have the trust, but he didn't. And so that was the painful, kind of led to the end of my animating career at the Disney studio at that point. I didn't get picked up for Chicken Little, got let go.
Yeah, but you did work on The Little Match Girl, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So, you know what? I think that this is a great place for us to stop.
I
think next week I'd like to pick up on so the end of Home on the Range and how you got on to Little Match Girl, and then what happened then.
Okay.
And we'll continue talking about your career. But again, Rob, great conversation. I'm so happy you're on the Skull Rock podcast telling your story, and I look forward to picking up next Monday with part 3.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I love talking about this stuff.
Thank you.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here! Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
I love about this is we have video of this interview, which is really great. And we're going to put up more video interviews on the YouTubes. But man, what another awesome interview, Dave.
I absolutely love talking to Rob Pratt because he's got such an enthusiasm, and he's got such a positive nature to him. And I find him very inspiring, and it's wonderful to hear the stories that he's relaying for us. And I hope people are really enjoying this, because I do think it's inspiring and really worth listening carefully to what Rob has been doing in navigating some choppy waters in the industry. By the way, Aljon, right before the interview, we were talking about Apocalypse Now, and I gave a quote on Francis Ford Coppola. I want to give the full exact quote because I was kind of a little bit off on it. But Francis Ford Coppola said about Apocalypse Now, we had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane. I just think it's fantastic, I mean, that was just crazy. They were shooting in the jungles of the Philippines.
Yes.
Martin Sheen, who is the star of that movie, actually had a heart attack during the filming.
Yeah, it's freaking hot.
Yeah, he had a heart attack during the filming. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I mean, it's so hot, and all the equipment you have to, the actors had to be authentic to carry those packs. I mean, that's like 25, 30 pounds worth of stuff. But if that, and the military typically does that. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And if you ever been to the Philippines or in that region, man, you can't even breathe. It's so humid.
Yeah, the humidity is crushing.
Yes, it is so humid. It's just crazy. But man, that's awesome. I feel like we need to go through the American Film Classics Institute's vault and just go through some films and just talk about them, because that just.
I'm down with you, man. I mean, all the film noirs that Hollywood produced, and you look at Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon and Key Largo. I mean, those Bogart films. I mean, they're just fantastic. We could talk about each one of them. We could make each one an episode. And if people haven't seen those films, now is the time. I mean, with the streaming services, the really unfettered access that we have now to all of these great films. And if you've got a great television setup at home. I mean, Aljon, I got an 85-inch television.
Yeah, you and me both.
I mean, it's like I have a little theater. I lovingly refer to it as our personal Lemley theater.
You and I both feel the same way, because when I moved into my home right there before the pandemic, I said, "Give me the biggest TV you can." And Kristen looked at me and goes, "What?" And I said, "Yes, I want the biggest." I went to the Best Buy and I said, "Give me the biggest TV you got." And we're going to have it wired up. And I've got like this Denon system and Marantz. I got everything. And I got like the whole system built in, speakers, everything, with a big subwoofer, because, little did I know that the world was going to shut down and we were going to spend a lot of time watching movies.
Well, all I can say is the bigger the screen, the better. I got reined in a little bit because I wanted to do the 98-inch television, and my family thought I had lost my marbles, and they pulled me back a little and said, I think that's a little too big for that room, and I did a lot of measurements and said, okay, I'll do the 85-inch.
Oh, you can't. Don't concede next time. Don't concede. Well, gang, we could go on, but we're going to wrap this puppy up. Now, if you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform, as well as give us a like and follow on all the social medias, and we're there. Be sure to check out the website for the complete 400 plus episodes we've got there at skullrockpodcast.com. We've got a huge vault of stuff just waiting for you to discover. And you can also email us, Dave or Aljon, at skullrockpodcast.com. You can also check out my other podcast I host. Every week we put down new stuff, and there's videos there all the time, multiple during the week. It's Dining at Disney Podcast. Find us everywhere you find podcasts, on Spotify as well as YouTube. And a big shout out to our friends at Sorcery or srsounds.com. Dave?
Well, Aljon, I want to mention to everybody that, as I have been for several weeks now, we will be at the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, April 10th to 12th. And I got to tell you, the tickets are going fast on this expo. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you really need to do it. Aljon's putting the link into the show notes. They're going to be doing master classes with people like Andreas Deja. There's going to be, Aaron Blaze. There's, going to be a 40th anniversary celebration of An American Tale with John Pomeroy. There is so much going on. And by the way, Aljon, last year, which was the first year of the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, this year they've doubled the number of tickets they're selling.
Yeah.
And those tickets are going like hotcakes, folks. So get your tickets. Animation Y'all Expo, April 10th to 12th. Now, you can also listen to me on the Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. All during February, we are featuring the song Try Everything from Disney's animated hit film Zootopia. And that's the original Zootopia, not Zootopia 2 that's out in theaters right now. So check that out, the Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. if you're interested in any of my books or other authors' books, you can get signed copies at theoldmillpress.com, including the newly released The Art of John Canemaker, An Animator's Garden by John Canemaker, and also A Spoonful of Sugar, the story of the Upjohn Pharmacy in Disneyland by Stephen Hall. That's right, drugs at Disneyland. Check it out. And you can always go to davidbossert.com. There's lots of free content and free stuff that you can send away for us, so check it all out. And with that, Aljon, I'm going to say, if you're in the path of this nor'easter, just stay home. Don't go to work tomorrow or until the snow melts. Be safe. Everybody go out there, have a fantastic week, be kind to one another, and we'll see you back here next Monday right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.